Big storyline was Bad Bunny, whose halftime performance was a tribute to the Spanish-speaking world, to culture. Bad Bunny got a bad review from our bad president, unfortunately.
Because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. If it does get to use, we have more than anybody else.
What started as just another electric night on stage suddenly took a turn nobody saw coming. The lights blazed, the crowd roared, and Bad Bunny was fully in his zone, owning the spotlight the way only he can. Then, without warning, the atmosphere shifted. A subtle response ignited a ripple. And before anyone grasped what was unfolding, that ripple reached late-night television, where Jimmy Kimmel somehow transformed it into a full-scale comedic explosion that pulled Donald Trump into the center of a punchline. The craziest part, none of it was planned. By the time the applause faded and the stage fell, Silent One live performance had unknowingly triggered a chain reaction nobody had on their bingo card.net.
Well, criticized Bad Bunny's performance at the Super Bowl with a post on his own social media platform saying, quote, "The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence."
This is hitting right subscribe because it truly helps. Now here is where things get really interesting. Nobody imagined a high-voltage Bad Bunny performance would give Jimmy Kimmel the perfect ammunition for political comedy. But that is exactly what happened when raw energy met pure arrogance and timing collided at the worst moment. What started as music became something far louder, and the fallout was anything but calm.
The atmosphere is moist here in LA, whereas things are getting very heated in Washington, D.C., as a select group from Congress has been given access to the unredacted Epstein files, which reference our president far, far more than anyone could have imagined. And so how is Trump responding to that? I'll tell you how. By attacking Canada again. He's at it again. This time, he's threatening to close down a new bridge they're almost finished with that connects Windsor to Detroit.
Started as a vibrant cultural celebration, somehow exploded into a full-blown media war that pushed Donald Trump directly into the spotlight. And once that light hit him, Jimmy Kimmel wasted no time turning up the heat. He did not ease in. He leaned forward, grabbed the moment, and turned a fleeting headline into essential unmissable commentary.
The halftime show is absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, and the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and around the world. This is a man who paid off a porn star.
On the surface, everything looked exactly as you would expect from one of the biggest superstars walking this earth. The lights were explosive, the crowd was absolutely losing it in the most electric way possible, and timelines everywhere erupted with the kind of wild frenzy only Bad Bunny can create. It felt massive, celebratory, and completely dominant in the cultural conversation.
Meanwhile, the MAGAsphere is very fired up about the news that Bad Bunny is doing the Super Bowl halftime.
So you heard about this guy, the Bunny? Is that his name? Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny. It's yet another reason to not watch football. It stinks. Roger Goodell and all those criminals, they can have their money. Boycott it. Read a book. Go to church. I'm serious. NFL, no freaking...
But beneath all that dazzling spectacle, a spark was quietly waiting to explode. In today's world, entertainment almost never stays in its own lane. Moments echo, they grow. And sometimes those echoes drift straight into political territory. Donald Trump has never been the type to silently watch cultural waves pass, especially when they brush against themes of popularity, influence, or public perception. As Bad Bunny's performance spread everywhere, it stopped being just a music story and evolved into a deeper conversation about cultural dominance, generational momentum, and the celebrity power that political figures both crave and fear. Kimmel did not treat it as simple gossip. He reframed it as a story about ego and reaction. He was not mocking a response. He dissected the impulse behind it. Strategically, he first revisited the performance, its magnitude, the fevered crowd, and the undeniable global star presence. Only Bad Bunny truly commands worldwide.net.
The country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades. I didn't know that, actually. They always seem pretty fair to me, but okay. Now, things are turning around and fast, but imagine Canada is building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. President Barack Hussein Obama. Is that part of his apology for the Post the other day, or stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act? Now,
Confirming how enormous. That moment was Kimmel quietly built a contrast, and that contrast became the fuel behind every punchline. The humor was never about attacking music. It questioned why a concert could provoke irritation in political spaces. As the monologue unfolded, he leaned into irony, painting a portrait of a former president, reacting as though a live show were a personal insult. That disconnect was where comedy thrived. Not mere exaggeration, but sheer improbability. The idea that a performance could ignite political agitation felt surreal. Kimmel moved through that absurdity with precision. What made it compelling was how it tapped a deeper cultural strain. Entertainment today is not simply entertainment. It signals identity, loyalty, and generational evolution. Bad Bunny represents a global shift, and Kimmel grasped that. He widened the lens, exploring what that reaction revealed about a shifting influence landscape, transforming mockery into meditation on relevance itself.
being the release of the Epstein files. He's offended for the children. The MAGAverse was so hopping mad about Bad Bunny. It really is amazing how differently people can see the same thing. Half of us saw a heartwarming story of immigrants who had dreams to come to America, work hard, get married, grow up, raise families, sing, dance, play backgammon. The other half, it was like the movie 28 Days Later. It was a terrifying attack on humanity led by Jessica.
Laughter carried real weight because it doubled as cultural commentary, which is exactly where late-night satire hits hardest. Social media amplified everything. Clips spread alongside Kimmel's monologue, creating a feedback loop, pushing engagement higher. Supporters and critics flooded comment sections debating not just the concert but what it symbolized politically. The irony was clear. An event built for entertainment had become a flashpoint for ideological conversation, capturing how deeply intertwined pop culture and politics have grown. There was a time when concerts ended when lights went off. Now every moment carries symbolic weight. Kimmel seized that, structuring his commentary as a slow unraveling. He built context-layered irony and let tension rise organically. It never felt like a rant. It felt like a story, unfolding in real time, each transition flowing, naturally mirroring the performance that sparked it.
You know, there's a rumor making the rounds this weekend that Trump was dead because he hadn't been in front of a camera for a few days. That's how much he's in front of a camera. When we don't see him there, we assume he must be dead. And also, he has mysterious bruising on his hand, which they tried to cover up with makeup. And this cover-up's even sloppier than the Epstein one. How could anyone let him go out like this?
One of the most striking elements of Kimmel's monologue was how he blended sharp comedy with quiet critique. The jokes landed, yet beneath ran a thread about insecurity inside spectacle. Without saying it directly, he suggested outrage can reclaim attention. By framing the response as excessive, he pushed viewers to question whether frustration was genuine or amplified. That approach resonated since Trump supporters saw everything differently. For them, the performance carried cultural messaging, clashing with their values, and Kimmel's mockery felt like another example of media bias. That divide deepened the conversation, keeping the story alive long after the final note faded. What made it fascinating was how it exposed the fragility of narrative control. Trump built his identity on owning headlines and steering dialogue. Yet here the spark came from a musician on a stage, proving how rapidly influence shifts when cultural figures reach audiences far beyond political boundaries.
Trump didn't watch the Kid Rock halftime show. He watched Bad Bunny. He wanted to make sure he hated him as much as he thought he would, and he did. Someone shot this video of Trump watching the game at his hotel in Palm Beach, and you can see that's the monitor. He's got a bunch of people there, and he's joined at his table by none other than, you'll see here, Senator Lindsey Graham. That is what I wish on Donald Trump. An eternity of watching football halftime shows with Lindsay.
Attention shifted from the performance to Ward, who controls cultural narratives in a hyper-connected world. At its core, the episode revealed something essential about modern fame. Musicians, comedians, and politicians share overlapping spaces where any public moment becomes disputed territory. Kimmel understood and leaned into it, crafting his monologue to expose tension within those shifting power dynamics. In doing so, he transformed a fleeting headline into a meditation on ego and relevance in an era where cultural gravity never stops moving. Not change the real irony. Is that all the backlash likely? Expanded the reach of the very performance that started everything. Controversy has a way of stretching visibility, and the added dimension of political drama guaranteed that clips from Bad Bunny's set landed in front of viewers, who might have otherwise kept scrolling. Resistance has a funny way of becoming rocket fuel. That circular pattern defines how modern media breathes. Reactions ignite counter-reactions, which inspire commentary, which then triggers even more responses, building endlessly on each other. Kimmel stepped into that cycle with sharp, precise timing, delivering a segment that felt spontaneous, yet was clearly structured with full intention. The result was a viral flashpoint that laid bare just how tightly entertainment and political identity are woven in an era of instant broadcasting. When art crashes into power, the aftermath is rarely calm. In this case, it produced a late-night spectacle that made clear just how explosive attention can become before the noise eventually settles. What lingers is a vivid reminder of how fast narratives can flip and how humor in the right hands can completely reshape conflict. Kimmel did not invent the tension surrounding that performance, but he undeniably defined how millions of people processed it by filtering the raw moment through the sharp lens of satire and converting genuine outrage into perfectly crafted punchlines that nobody saw coming.
That himself, right? Looks great, sir. No one will notice a thing. The White House claims the reason for these bruises and his big fat elephant ankles is he suffers from a condition known as chronic venous insufficiency, which in layman's terms means he's got a very small venus. He's got an insufficient venus. But Trump says he said he's in great health. He's never felt better. And despite the fact that he looks like a pumpkin that got left in the hatchback on a 100-degree day, he is definitely not dead.
In a media landscape, drowning in noise moments like this cut through because they pull back the curtain on how headlines are built and amplified. They show how influence is negotiated in real time and how fast the spotlight leaps from a concert stage to a studio desk to a trending feed. Whether audiences viewed Kimmel's mockery as deserved or excessive, it undeniably captured a cultural moment where music, politics, and comedy are permanently locked together. Perhaps that is the real takeaway. One performance set the stage, a reaction fueled the fire, and a late-night host transformed it into a cultural case study wrapped in laughter. In today's world where everything trends, even a bass drop can shake political ground. Once that ground starts trembling, it does not settle because attention online behaves less like a focused beam and more like a gathering storm, growing fiercer as it spins. Kimmel understood satire is never just ridicule. It is about reframing reality. By presenting the reaction as overblown and theatrical, he pushed viewers to reconsider what truly deserves outrage and what deserves applause, suggesting that the loudest objections often expose the deepest anxieties about fading dominance and power slipping away.
Inject your penis with hyaluronic acid to win a medal? I think you deserve one. I mean, that's a commitment to your craft, you know? Meanwhile, here in the States, the MAGAs are still exploding with rage over the Bad Bunny halftime show. Republican Congresswoman from Missouri is threatening now to call in the FCC to report profanities that either may or may not have been uttered by Bad Bunny. He has no idea.
The lyrics, from what we have seen from Bad Bunny, are very disturbing.
Everyone gets all worked up. Here's the thing. Donald Trump will never die. Forget it. He's like Dracula. He's going to keep sucking the life out of us forever. There will be no more trans in Transylvania when he is done. Hey, speaking of Dracula, Trump's other big announcement was that he will award the Presidential Medal of Freedom to former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani. The Medal of Freedom is the highest civilian honor an American can receive, or at least it was until yesterday. The date has not been announced yet for the...
At the same time, the episode made clear how celebrity influence and political identity now collide in ways that are almost impossible to separate. Bad Bunny's platform means far more than chart-topping music. It reflects cultural unity, youthful energy, and a vast global audience that simply does not fit neatly inside traditional political boxes. When that kind of raw influence crashes into a figure used to controlling headlines, tension becomes almost unavoidable. The ripple effects stretched well beyond a single monologue. Commentators dissected not just Kimmel's approach, but the broader reality of entertainers actively shaping political conversation. Supporters praised the humor as a vital counterweight to overheated political rhetoric. Critics argued it blurred the line between comedy and commentary. But that debate itself became part of the spectacle, feeding the very cycle it questioned. What remained remarkable was how effortlessly the narrative traveled across platforms, evolving at every single turn. A performance sparks a reaction feeds satire, and satire can completely rewrite the story. That is the new architecture of modern media. By the time the stage lights faded and the studio cameras cut, the moment had already multiplied into something far larger than anyone originally intended.